crafters, and welcome back. I hope everyone's had a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays and you're all relaxing and having a good time at home with the family. Today I have another Scrappy Tails post for you, and this one includes a couple of quick shaker cards that you can make with the paper pack that was released in the last release. So this is the Winter Flurries Paper Pack. There's 24 papers, 12 designs. And I'm also going to be using some foil plates and the embellishments pack. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab the snowy scene that I want to use for my shaker card. So I've grabbed this one here that's gray and white. It's got like a little town or a city there in the bottom. And you can see the top is pretty much bare. So you can put whatever you want there. And that is where I'm going to make my shaker card opening to create the main center of my card. So all I've done here is I've cut the card panel to a little bit smaller than an A2 size panel. I've centered that one house in the middle there. And now I'm using these hexagon dies from Pinkfresh Studio. I'm using the second largest die to cut out the opening of my shaker card. So you can see I've kind of got the house down there at the bottom corner. And I'm using the die to cut this. I can take out the center. Now don't get rid of that center. We want to use that still in the center of our shaker card. But before we do that, we have to add our acetate piece to create the face of the card. And all I'm really doing is cutting a piece of acetate that's just about 4 by 5, about 4 by 5 inches so that it's going to fit in that opening. And it's going to contain all of our little shaker bits once we put it in. So all I'm doing is adding some tape runner to the edges. It's important to get it right around the edge of that hexagon, and then because my panel is a little bit larger, I'll add a bit more glue there so that it will all adhere nice and flat. Now once that's done, I want to add a sentiment. I'm using this Sky Bright foil by Spellbinders because it matches those embellishments that I'm going to use as my shaker bits. And I'm using the Let It Snow sentiment from one of the older sets, foil sets from Scrappy Tails. I'm just going to attach it with some washi tape here, or you can use some low tack tape. And then I'm going to cut a bit of the Sky Bright foil and just add it in there and then put it through my glimmer machine. You can use any foiling machine. I just have the glimmer machine and it works well for me. So we'll remove the foil, and you can see that it foiled ever so lightly. There's just a little bit of overfoiling, and not to worry, you could use a Tombow Mono sand eraser to get rid of that. I've also got this Couture Creations detailer tool, so it's just a small spinning eraser. It gets rid of any extra overfoiling. Now we are going to create the actual shaker portion, or the compartment to hold the shaker bits of our card. Now I'm just using some 3M foam here, and I'm doubling it up, so I'm kind of taping it back on itself to create a double layer. Now I want a double layer. I'm not going to get away with just using one layer because if you look at the embellishments that I'm using, they have a lot of dimension to them. So if I don't add that extra space, they're not going to move within the card. So it's very important you have that double layer of foam. And now I'm just going to basically encase that entire hexagon shape so that we can add the shaker bits in there and they're not going to go anywhere. Now, when you're adding the foam tape here, I do recommend butting them up against each other so that you've got a completely concealed or like formed hexagon compartment so nothing kind of goes astray. But it's not like you have to really butt everything up so closely because it's not like we're using glitter or anything so small that it's really going to come through. These little bits are not so small. So, I mean, if there's like a tiny little hole, it's okay. They're not going to go anywhere. So I've created my hexagon there for my shaker bits, and then I've also added 4 more extra pieces on the corner just to maintain the depth of the front of the card and make sure that it doesn't kind of collapse on the corners. Now what I have to do is attach just the bottom half of the card. So only like the 2 bottom pieces there and the extra 2 corners at the bottom. And I want to position the portion that goes in the center with the foiled sentiment inside the card, or at least inside the shaker portion of the card. So now it kind of lines up with the hexagon frame on the outside and it kind of looks like one cohesive piece minus the fact that it's separated by the shaker element. Now I'm just removing the backing from the foam strips on either side of the card, and I'm keeping the ones on the top free, okay, because I still need to add my shaker bits. I find that this is the easiest way to add your shaker bits. I know some people kind of just place it on top of the card and then carefully put the frame on top. I've never been the best at doing this. So this is the easiest way. I just kind of create like a pocket and then I just put them in through the top. I have like a little scoopula. You've probably seen that in like, science class back in the day. I have one of those because my main job, I used to work in a lab. But and yeah, that was a parting gift. But anyways, there are other scoops that you can buy. I know that Tonic Studios, Tim Holtz, they all have their own different scoops that you can use to scoop your embellishments in. So as you could see, I did remove the backing for the rest of the foam pieces at the top of the card, and I adhered it fully to ensure that all of those cute little shaker bits aren't going anywhere. Then to finish this card off, all I'm doing is adding some more of these embellishments to the front frame of the card. Now, if you aren't familiar, so the paper pack is called Winter Flurries, but this set of embellishments I have is also called Winter Flurries. So if you're looking for it, that's what it's called. Please also keep in mind that everything that I'm using here is going to be linked within my blog, which is linked in the description below. So you can always check that out to find the specific things that I've used. So that is the first card. Let's move on to the second one. For the second one, we're going to be using this beautiful paper. I'm actually in love with it because I love the pops of red from those cardinals that are sitting on those branches. So all I'm doing is, again, I'm cutting this down to a panel that's a little bit smaller than an A2 size panel. And then for this one, I'm going to use some diamond dies that, again, are from Pink Fresh Studio. This is, again, the second largest die. And I'm just going to line it up here in the center of my panel and cut it out. You can see in this case, I'm not going to use that center diamond. I'm just going to put that aside and save it for something else later. Now I've cut another piece of acetate to put in the center there. And what I've done is I've taped it. And I'm now using a pencil to create little registration marks on each corner of that piece of acetate. So this is just marking where I'm going to glue it down eventually. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm using acetate that is heat resistant because I'm going to be doing some foiling on it. So the heat resistance part is very important. Otherwise your acetate is going to melt on your glimmer machine or your foiling machine. So I've lined up that acetate behind the opening, the diamond opening. I'm positioning my sentiment and adhering it with some low tack tape. And now I can carefully remove the pattern paper frame. So essentially all we were doing was ensuring that it was in a spot where I can put it back in the exact same spot and make sure that my sentiment lines up with the rest of the card. Okay, so now I'm using some red foil by Spellbinders. I thought that the red would work well with the cardinals in the background on that pattern paper. It would just kind of make that red stand out a little more. I'm going to foil it. And while that was foiling, I actually cut out an extra little cardinal. I'll use that later on. And you'll see that it foiled ever so nicely. So it did not foil the same thickness of those letters as it should have. And all that means is you might have wanted to let your plate warm up just a little bit longer. So now I have those registration marks, and all I have to do is line this acetate panel right back up to where it was before. I'm going to attach it with the tape and just kind of look and make sure that it's in the center. And now all I have to do is kind of flip it over, add my glue or my my tape adhesive, my adhesive runner, my dot runner, and then I can just flatten it down and keep it down. Now I could remove the tape that I added earlier, but I really don't need to. No one's going to see it anyways. And now you have your face of your card with the acetate and the sentiment nicely lined up and foiled on the acetate. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not using that diamond that we cut out earlier in the middle. I'm actually going to use some silver matte cardstock. And this is actually from Sizzix. It comes in like a pack with a whole bunch of different types of silvers, like glitters and mirror cardstock and stuff like that. I love it. I use it for everything. Okay, so now that that's done, I can go ahead and create my little compartment for my embellishment pieces, just like I did with the hexagon, except this is easier. I've only got 4 sides. And again, keep in mind, I am doubling up the foam because of the dimension in my embellishments, in my shaker bits. And I've also added extra foam pieces on the corners so that my top cardstock piece doesn't like kind of fold inwards on the edges where the foam tape is not. It just maintains the structure of my card. So I've removed the release paper from all of the bottom bits, so the bottom half of the card, and I've attached it. And now all I have to do is add my shaker bits. So I'm showing you here that I have one of the other embellishment packs, and I've separated all of the white snowflakes because that's all I want for this one. I want the white snowflakes. And then I've also got another embellishment pack, which is called the Gold Mix. And it's just got a bunch of beautiful gold metallic gems. And I'm going to add those in there. Now, the cool thing about these gems is when they're on the opposite side, they've actually got like a clear gem effect. So they work well either way, whether they're the right way up or the wrong way around, they look gorgeous. So now that I've got everything in there, I'm just going to remove the extra backing from the rest of the foam and adhere that completely so that all of my shaker bits aren't going anywhere but the center of my card. And you can see how gorgeous that looks. And the little bits of the gold gems just really kind of break up the design and make it stand out and look a little different. So to finish this off, I'm adding that little cardinal that we cut out earlier, and I'm having him sit just atop the T in the word the, so that it kind of goes with the design and just fits everything. I was kind of upset that the way that I cut out the panel, it kind of cut off 3 of those birds except for one of them, so I thought that this would make up for it. And then on top of that, I'm adding a few more of the gold gems from the gold mix, just to finish this card off. And those are my 2 shaker cards for today. And I really do recommend purchasing that Winter Flurries pattern paper. It's not paper, it's more like a cardstock. It's really good quality. The designs on it are great. They're very versatile. And I know Christmas is over, but you could maybe save these cards for next year or use them as thank you cards for your Christmas gifts or just as a winter greeting card. So I hope you guys have been inspired to use these products. As I mentioned, everything's linked in my blog. Happy shopping, and I hope you all have a great rest of 2022, and I'll see you all in the new year. Bye.